Lately, I've been getting more requests from developers and publishers wanting the site to cover their Kickstarter projects. As somebody who has spent more time reviewing games than previewing them, I'll admit that I'm a little perplexed when it comes to covering titles that are currently being crowdfunded. So instead of simply ignoring these Kickstarter games, I want to take a few minutes and talk about some of my reasoning and get suggestions from you, the viewer. It's probably worth admitting right off the top that I've never backed a Kickstarter project. I've rooted for many to succeed, but have avoided spending any money to help them meet their goals. I'm also the last guy who should give investment advice, especially when it comes to games that are a year or two out. There are so many titles currently coming out that I barely have time to keep track of what's happening on Kickstarter. But whether I like it or not, crowdfunding is here to stay. Plenty of good games have come from Kickstarter and other websites. And right now, there are no signs of it slowing down. I'm at a point now where I can't ignore it. I have to make a decision about how to preview Kickstarter projects. So I've done exactly that. And going forward, I don't plan on posting previews of games currently in the crowdfunding process. Let me back up and explain. The game you're looking at right now is called 12 is Better Than 6, and it's one of several Kickstarter projects pitched to the site over the last 2 weeks. It's basically a Wild West variation on Hotline Miami, a game I legitimately loved when it hit PS Vita a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, I have a much lower opinion of 12 is Better Than 6. For what it's worth, this action game does have a few things going for it. For one thing, I love the sketchbook graphics and the clean look. I also enjoyed the music, coming away from the extended demo thoroughly impressed with the presentation. But that wasn't enough for me to enjoy 12 is Better Than 6. In fact, I'll go a step further. I can't stand playing this game. A lot of the problem comes down to the brutal difficulty in gameplay. Without controller support, playing this style of game is nearly impossible. Enemies seem to have an unfair advantage, moving around is a pain, and the checkpointing is the worst. In its current state, I would not play past where the demo ends. But that's the thing, this game's far from done. Nearly everything I disliked about the game will undoubtedly be addressed before it even goes into Steam Early Access. And that's when I realized that any criticism I had was not only wildly premature, but potentially harmful to the Kickstarter project. If I were to upload my gameplay session of 12 is Better Than 6, you would hear one very angry guy yelling about how difficult it is to control. You'd watch me die dozens of times simply because the game doesn't give me any place to hide. And while some of you may enjoy hearing me curse up a storm in frustration, the truth is that it isn't a very accurate way to analyze an early Kickstarter project. So in an effort to be fair, I'm not going to post hands-on previews of games currently being crowdfunded, including 12 is Better Than 6. Instead, I'm going to look for a different approach for these titles. Perhaps it would be better to post interviews with the developer. That way you get a better understanding of the potential for the game if fully funded. That way I can ask them directly about the problems with the demo, and you can base your funding decisions on their answers. Before I settle on anything, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this conundrum. Hopefully you can understand why I don't want to preview Kickstarter projects and Steam Early Access games in the same way, and I'm definitely open to any and all suggestions. So if you know of any way to handle crowdfunding previews, please leave a comment below or shoot me an email. This is a problem I would like to resolve before heading into the new year. I know this wasn't my usual preview, but I still want to thank you for listening to me ramble about previewing games. I have a hunch this won't be the last time I have to make one of these decisions, and any input you have would be greatly appreciated. Don't worry, I have some real previews coming up, including a look at Between Me and the Night. I also have a review of 80 Days just around the corner, so do me a favor and click the subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.